All right, we'll wait to see who's here, and then I think hopefully soon Sean will show up and we'll figure out how to connect everything. Hi guys, everybody who's just showing up. Hope you're having a lovely evening. We are having an interesting day in this household. I'm just gonna wait until Sean shows up and hopefully, oh good, yes. I've never gone live with someone else, so this is exciting. These are big times. It worked!
Hello!
Hello! I've never talked to him, guys, ever, so I feel very excited. Nice to finally talk with you.
Yeah!
Okay.
Where are you located?
North Carolina.
Oh, so you're not enjoying the beautiful winter weather.
No, but I will be. Do you live by State College at all?
Close enough.
I'll be there in a week.
Yeah, well, it should be gone by then. So
oh,
we're
good, perfect.
Getting destroyed with snow right now. So
yeah, no, thank you. I lived in Michigan for 6 years, so
yeah,
that's why I live here.
Okay, so you get it.
Yeah, that's why I live here. It's like, all right, bye.
If only I could move. Gonna adjust here, so I'm gonna let you run the show, my dear.
Thanks. Okay, so everybody, welcome. Do you want me to put this up on YouTube? We didn't even talk about that.
That's entirely up to you.
Okay. I did that last week and people seem to like it. So I guess, okay, people like that. We'll do that. I'll put it up on my channel. You can put it up on yours. Perfect. So if you're new here, hey there. I'm Liz. This is Sean. You probably follow one of us. We're going to talk about a little bit about like family nurse practitioners and where they work and can they work in the ICU? Because this came up in one of your stories last week and it turned into a thing. And then after that, we both have questions. And if you guys have any questions, just let us know and we'll just chat. So yeah. Do you want to tackle that first or do you want me to tackle that first?
As you already warned my viewers, they may not like our opinions.
Oh yeah. And yeah, we're both pretty opinionated. I think we're opinionated in the same way. So that works well for us.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be your opinion.
They may not like what we have to hear.
Well, yeah.
They may not like what we have to say.
Yeah, and you don't have to like what we say. It's fine. It's just our opinion, and we're right.
Bingo.
Okay. So, do you want me to go first since?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So in terms of family nurse practitioners working in the ICU, I get this question all the time.
Whoa. Hold on. For my viewers who are here, who are you?
Oh, I'm Liz. I'm a family nurse practitioner. We should probably start there. And I have worked for about a year. I'm still a baby NP. Before that, I was a peds nurse for, 4.5 years. And I was an adult Med-Surg nurse for 1.5 years before that. Who are you?
Okay. So my name is Sean. I'm a nurse, an acute care nurse practitioner. I've been a nurse for almost 15 years, and I've been an NP in the ICU for, this is year 7. Prior to being an NP, I was critical care nurse through and through from a new grad until now. So I love the fact that we are in two completely different worlds, but yet you and I seem to connect on a lot of things.
Yep.
Okay, so intro's out of the way. We have I'm
glad you remembered that.
Us, my dear.
Okay, so I get this question all the time of, can family nurse practitioners work in the ICU? Can they work in the hospital? Yada, yada. But we'll tackle more like the ICU because I think that's easier to kind of go with. My opinion is no. So none of our training is really geared towards that. You don't have anything to back that up. The biggest argument I've heard for it is people are like, oh, well, I've been trained to be like a critical care person, but none of your education backed that up. So how are you going to back that up if you ever were to be sued, if anything was like that? And if none of your education supported that, are you really doing the best for your patients if you haven't had any of that? Even if your background is in critical care, it's just I feel like you don't have the education to back that up. I was told when I was in school, no, you are a primary care, like you can work in outpatient clinics. Some places do ER, like you can work on the more like non-trauma, not critical care side of the ER, but that's my stance on that.
Nailed it. Yeah, so the bottom line, so this has been a question that's been asked on my channel and all over my social media a long time. And I think it stems from the way that nurse practitioners used to be educated and trained.
Mm-hmm.
Is that 10 years ago, well, actually longer than that, more than 10 years ago, before the consensus model showed up, you could start out as a general practitioner, FNP, and then you could literally branch out to wherever you wanted, or wherever the tide took you. If you are a critical care nurse or a critical care RN, you could start in critical care and then float over to primary care, and then if you were interested, you could make it into the ER. So it was very mutable at that time.
Yeah.
And now it has changed greatly. We are specialized. We are specialists. Now you get to choose your specialty, but you have to stay in your lane, unfortunately, because you don't get to jump lanes without the additional formal education and training, because it violates your scope of practice. And you hit the nail on the head that it has everything to do with legality. It doesn't matter that. So let's put it this way: is that I'm a critical care nurse by training for greater than 10 years, and if I decided to become an FNP and then went out into the FNP world and practiced within my scope of practice, and then thought, nope, that wasn't for me, I'm just going to go ahead and work in the ICU, I'm not licensed as a acute care nurse practitioner in that scenario. So if I happen to get sued or legal action is taken upon me for something about a patient inside of the ICU, I have no legal grounds to defend myself. And not only am I losing my license, but more than likely I'm getting sued by not just the patient, but probably by the employer that I work for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
do you see anybody that's an FNP that you work with now that's gotten like grandfathered into it?
No, but that you're right that some do get grandfathered in, and I don't know the legality of that. That's a heck of a question.
Yeah.
There are FNPs who've been doing it for 10, 20 years plus, that it's all I've ever done. And the way that I understand it is that if you're grandfathered into some particular niche, you have to stay there for the remainder of your days. You don't get to leave. If you move in any way, you're going to have to gain the training and education that is required for whatever place you go to. So it's dangerous to, I mean, so the way I look at it is that, there's no way that I could do your job. Yeah. That patients would get harmed if I show up in your environment and I try to care for your patients. Now, I could probably scrape the surface and get by with general education. Like, I'm fairly certain that I'd make sure they wouldn't die. Yeah. Because I would know my limits. But, and I was trying to think about this before we jumped on, was, like, if as an acute care nurse practitioner, I'm an adult acute care nurse practitioner. So the babies are not my forte in any way, shape, or form. So if you ask me to do like a well baby visit of some sort, fail.
You'd be like, your baby's so cute.
I'm like, yeah, you're good. Here you go. Moving on. You know what? They have a heartbeat. Yeah. That's about all I can tell you.
It looks like they're functioning well. Good job.
So I guess the problem is, and I've addressed it before in many of my social media avenues, is that when you decide to become a nurse practitioner, and it stinks, but you have to know your end destination before you start. Yeah. You don't get to choose halfway through it. And you don't get to I think in many programs, you might be able to get away with the first year of program, or the year of school. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but in the first 1 to 2 semesters, I'm in the same classes as the FNPs, as the CRNAs, as the, the neonatal nurse practitioners. We all take the do we want to call them Gen Ed classes? You know,
Yeah, the
the master's
assessment,
level.
patho.
Yeah, exactly. So, because, you know, the assessment class that I took with a bunch of FNP students.
Yep.
You
We
know,
did too.
so, and then we all branch off into our
Mhm.
specialties, and that's where
Yeah.
there's no turning back, you
Yeah.
know? So I remember you talking about it, and I talk about it as well, is that you should job shadow as many people as possible
Yeah.
to figure out what you want to do.
Yeah.
I can keep talking. I'm gonna take over your
Yeah.
live here.
It's not mine, it's ours. Yeah. And I think that's a huge thing where experience comes, like nursing experiences beforehand helps too, because you can kind of see those different things while you're out there, even just working while you're working as a nurse, and kind of see like, ooh, would I maybe like that or this or this? Because I know I did not go in the direction I thought I would have before I started working.
So then, you know, let's tangent off of that. How did you decide?
I got a Med-Surg job because I couldn't, that was the only job I could get. And I was like, whatever, this is fine. And all of them, it was like a liver, GI, kidney floor. So we were having just a ton of patients with horrible side effects of like diabetes and all these other things. And they had no idea what was causing all these complications. And I had a lady who came in and her toe had fallen, like they had to come and amputate her toe from her diabetes complications. And she was like sobbing at me. She was like, I'm not eating sugar packets. I don't understand why my blood sugar is high. And I was like, oh, hun, like there's just no education in like the primary care setting. And I was like, I need to go do that. And like, oh, so, but I would not have known that.
Did you job shadow? Did you go shadow other NPs before you decided that, or just kind of an inspiration?
I kind of just like, I talked to some of my other coworkers who, one of them was finishing up the actual program that I went to, because I was like just talking about her with it. And I went and did like one day at where she was doing her clinical at. And I was like, yeah, but I kind of knew, because she was like, oh, it's like when you go to your primary care provider. And that's very easy to grasp. Like, it wasn't outside the realm of like, I don't even know what that is. I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess this makes sense.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, you know, some of us are lucky enough to be, you know, to have that aha moment, or to be inspired to know where to go, where a lot of students have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
You know, and that's an unfortunate challenge that they have to figure out on their own. I always make the recommendation, you should shadow NPs who love their job and NPs who hate their job.
Yep.
So you can make an informed decision as to exactly, is that for me? You know?
Yeah.
You got to think about the lifestyle you're gonna live. Because if you want to work in the environment I work in, you better be willing to live in the hospital life.
Yeah.
The shift life.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's a huge thing too. Yeah.
You know, I'm just the opposite. Like, I love the shift life. Like, if I were to work a Monday through Friday job, it would destroy me.
Yeah. Well, if I were to work a Monday through Friday job, it would destroy me. So I barely work. It's fine.
Have you come across any FNPs that actually do ICU work?
No, only in like there's certain like Facebook group things that you see, and there's always the people who are like, I'm an like, you know, someone comes across and they're like, can I do this as an FNP? And then the warriors come out and they're like, yes. And I'm like, no. Like, oh, yeah. And especially now there's a lot I've seen from talk of insurance companies are now withdrawing. They won't pay for services provided by an FNP in the ICU, or even some like in hospitals. They're saying, nope, like you can't even function as a hospitalist, like, and pulling that in a lot of states.
Interesting.
So
that would change the game greatly.
Yeah. And it's starting to, certain states have rolled it out where they're just like, your education doesn't back this up. Sorry.
Yeah.
Whoop.
That'll be interesting. There was a rumor where I'm working that they're reevaluating the vetting process, or the credentialing process, when it comes to NPs in the hospital. So it doesn't matter where you are, whether you're, you know, hospitalist, acute care, or if you work in one of the specialty groups, they're going to reevaluate your education and training. And are you truly qualified? Have you gotten the education and training that was required to do this job?
Yeah.
And if you don't, I really don't know what they're going to do. It's just a lot of rumor mill right now, but that, they're going to give you a timeline and says,
Yeah.
okay, you have 5 years to go back and get what you're supposed to
Yep.
get, and there are a lot of people that aren't liking that.
No. Yeah.
Aren't liking that at all.
Yeah. I bet.
I think I'm down the middle of it, because on the one hand, I can see how challenging that would be for someone who's been doing it long enough.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's the first step in standardizing what,
and being able to add credibility to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's another topic we could talk about, is the diploma mills that yeah. have so horribly weakened our profession. I understand it came out of the need of a shortage, and that we're meeting the needs of staffing problems. Primary care is a prime example that, there's not enough physicians out there. So nurse practitioners are filling those needs. Well, it's also in hospitals. There's not enough doctors that are specialized and trained to work in the ICUs at the level that we're at now.
Yeah.
So nurse practitioners and PAs are filling those gaps, but we're trying to churn them out, I think, too fast. To expedite the learning process, I think, robs not only you as a provider, but it puts patients in danger.
Yeah.
I said it. Yeah, you're right. I said it.
I just did a whole video about that last week.
Puts patients in danger. I'm sorry, that I don't know. Were you bold enough to talk about the physician that made the comment on Twitter a couple weeks ago?
I think all I said on it was, I didn't say a ton on it because I was so in the baby zone that I was like, anything I say is going to be like, don't be mean, like something like that. But I think my huge stance with that, whenever physicians have ever been like that, I don't know if, well, one, I think our nursing in general just needs to get their act together and standardize things and decide what's okay and what's not, and like stick to it, because we look so wishy-washy and just like, well, so like some people need this and some people don't. Like, standardize your admissions requirements, like make up your mind. Can we do this? Is this okay? Is it fine? Whatever. And then two, I've never been able to convince anyone that I'm competent if they're convinced, like nurse practitioners or not, by talking with them. I've only ever been able to do it by showing up and doing a really good job. And then them being like, oh, like, okay, I guess you're like.
And that's the rub.
Yeah.
That I was talking with a fellow NP, and then there was a group of students and a group of nurses who were all chiming in. And I said, it doesn't matter what your opinion is. The fact of the matter is that no two NPs are the same. No two NPs from the same training are the same. So I have an acute care nurse practitioner that I know that is nothing like me.
Yeah.
That doesn't have any of the training that I have. We both went to the same, we didn't go to the same program, but we had the same training. We had got the same degree. We have the same certification. But we're two very different NPs.
Yeah.
Because, one NP could have 2 years of experience and one NP could have 10 years of experience. And I don't think there's a person out there that's going to argue that experience matters.
Yeah.
So, and here we are trying to minimize how much time it actually takes to become an NP, let alone, cut off the amount of experience it takes. But that's why you can look at any entry-level physician and they all receive the same training. So every emergency doctor that is practicing emergency medicine all got the same education and training.
Yep.
That legitimizes it right there, standard. Now, I'm not talking about quality of care.
Yeah.
I'm simply talking about entry-level education and ability.
Yeah.
And at that point, you get to decide what quality of a physician or what quality of a nurse practitioner you want to be. But when we step out onto the stage and start practicing as a provider, it's completely variable for nurse practitioners.
Yeah.
And a lot of NPs don't want to swallow that pill.
Yeah. And even PAs are very much more regulated, I feel
They
like.
are. Absolutely. You know, and PAs are not specialized. They're, you know, general practitioner trained, you know, but they also still get more more global education than we do.
Yeah.
So it sucks is that,
It's a
you know, on
mess.
the one hand, you know, I'm a huge supporter and I love to promote my profession, but I'm also a naysayer.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a former colleague who is a mentor of mine who actually is at the you know, he's one of the trying not to spoil who he actually is, but you know, he holds a high rank within the national level.
Yeah.
And him and I can't talk about this stuff because I completely disagree with him.
Yeah.
In almost all of those things, because
yeah.
I'm sorry, we need to standardize education. And that means hitting the reset button. And to the thing we just talked about, part of the reset button is, you know, making current nurse practitioners go back and get the education and training that they should have gotten 10 years ago.
And it's going to be painful, and it's going to cost a lot of people a lot of money, like a lot of organizations too, a lot of money, because I feel like a lot of schools will not be able to do what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, we already have a shortage of instructors as it is.
Yep. Yeah.
That's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
So this whole time we have been ignoring the attendees of the live broadcast.
I know. Sorry, guys.
There have been so the problem is, sorry everyone who's watching, is that Liz and I have never talked to each other
We probably
until
should have
this very
beforehand.
moment. We have vented on the DM for a long time, but we've never actually spoken to each other. So, sorry.
You got to hear our first conversation. There you go.
Yes.
Congratulations, everyone.
Yeah.
All right. Let me scroll back and see if I can find a question. Okay. So Becoming Nurse Sally said, I've seen neurosurgery training programs for NPs. How do you feel about that? Is acute care NP school the best path for that? It's a 1-year residency program.
I think it's enough.
Yeah. I would say an acute care
enter.
NP. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't do FNP. That won't serve you well there.
No, not at all.
Jenna B said, so how about PNPs? Because I feel like a lot of them end up in children's hospitals. So apart from the training, obviously being completely about littles, does PNP prefer you more to do that? So there are 2 types of programs. There's an acute care peds and a primary care peds. And I think you might end up running into the same problem we talked about earlier, where insurance companies might start to say, how does this back up your education or your training?
See, I learned something today.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's way outside of my comfort zone.
But I do know of some, I do know what you mean. I do see a lot of primary care peds, especially on where I worked, they did hire a lot of primary care peds, but it was starting to transition the year I left. They stopped hiring primary care peds in the hospital, and they were only doing acute care. So It's starting to move that way.
By the way, before I forget, happy NP week.
Oh, thanks, you too. I asked my husband what he was getting me, and he just stared at me.
My wife's answer was, same thing I got you last year.
Yeah.
Scrubs and Balance is asking, can you talk about how PAs have 2 years education but don't have to specialize and have completely different education process? So the short answer is, there's the medicine model and then there's the nursing model. And the medicine model is where PA school bases most of their education and training, which is approaching it from a general practitioner's perspective. And it's more than 2 years from my understanding. So the entry level, when a PA starts working and taking care of patients, it's a master's levels education. So it's not just 2 years, it's 5+ years. And it's my understanding that during their clinicals and their schooling, they're required to have a certain couple thousand hours of patient care experience before they can move forward.
Yep.
And I learned this not only from social media, but I also work with I work with 4 PAs in my department. So I have 4 PAs who actually work in critical care. So it can be done. They had to go through a much longer vetting process and a longer training process, but it's all very possible.
Mm-hmm. Maureen says, knowing what you know now, would you have gone to PA school instead? I still would not have gone to PA school because I wanted I knew what I wanted to do, like we kind of talked about. So since I knew I wanted to do family medicine, primary care, I wanted all of my education to go towards that. But I already knew my specialty in that case. What about you?
Ditto. I was one of the lucky ones. I knew what I wanted to be. Once I entered the ICU as a bedside nurse, it took about a year before I actually met my first NP in the ICU. And after my first interaction, I thought she was a doctor. Mm-hmm. I thought she was a physician. And I actually posted it on my Instagram today. Her name's Tina. I'm still very good friends with her. She's the reason why I do what I do. It's because I got to see what an NP can do in an ICU. I just was like crack cocaine after that. So
that's awesome.
And for those of you that are, this is an interesting thing to think about. For those that are interested in deciding between NP and PA, guess who doesn't have to recertify every 10 years?
Very true.
So nurse practitioners do not have to recertify. If you decide to become a PA, you have to recertify. And it's now every 10 years. It used to be every 6. So every 10 years, a physician assistant has to take their board exam again, or they have to do some sort of course, or they have to do a year's worth of like horrible CME work. I've heard varying, versions of it, but ultimately that 10th year is painful in every way.
Yeah, I bet it is.
And as long as you maintain your CMEs and your CEUs as a nurse practitioner, you never have to recertify. So something to think about.
Yeah, goodness. That would be such a... All right, here, I'll pull up like a question thing. Is FNP or acute care NP more preferred in the ER? I'll let you take that one.
Ooh, the answer is there isn't one. So here's another reason why this is so hard, is that every single facility chooses what they want. So a lot of it, this is my personal experience. I think it has a lot to do with the size of the facility. So if you work in a very large facility where you have a teaching program, residencies, things like that, they probably want an FNP because the nurse practitioner is going to work in fast track. And for those of you that don't know what ED fast track is, it's where all of the sniffles come in. It's all of the, I have a migraine, I have a headache, I've been sick for 3 days and I can't get to my doctor, or my prescription ran out. Some of the less life-threatening problems they go through fast track, and if you want to call it triage, and those are across the lifespan. So from as you have said, from womb to tomb. Thought that was freaking awesome, by the way. So an FNP can treat that. They can do from womb to tomb, from birth to death. If you work in a smaller institution where there isn't residents, there isn't fellows and attendings, and it's just you and the doc, then more than likely they're going to want an acute care NP because they want someone who can take care of the sick patients. They want someone who can triage critical illness. Now, things are going to get a little dicey if you take care of a pediatric patient, but you can also practice underneath the license and supervision of the physician. So there are ways around it. Yeah. But it blurs the legal lines. So I know there's no right answer to that. Yeah. The right answer is do your research.
And look where you live. That's the biggest things I always tell people is for now until we figure it out, because some people are becoming FNPs and then they can add a ED cert afterwards. But until we figure out, because this is kind of all changing in the recent years since we implemented the consensus model, look where you live and just see what do they want for their ED providers.
And that's a great point, is that, so if you truly want to CYA and cover your bases, then choose whatever is your passion. So for me, I would have chose acute care, and that would have got my postmaster certification in FNP.
Yeah, exactly.
And now I have covered
all
the
your
entire
bases.
umbrella.
Yep.
And I could work in any ED with that dual certification.
And where I used to work, that's what they were starting to require for their NPs, was they gave them the 5 years to go back, and they said, whichever one you don't have, you need to go get. Yeah.
And that's, a lot of people are starting to do that. So if you have time, money, and ability to be dual certified, that's unfortunately the best, the only guarantee at this point.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be limited. Someone's going to say, sorry, we don't accept that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it stinks. Lots of people want, first nurse asked, how can we weed out the degree mill NP programs, and what are the warning signs?
Ooh, your turn.
Biggest things I usually say to look for are, what are the requirements? If it looks like, oh, I can like it, if this looks really easy to get into, that's a red flag. Do they ever, if they never make you go on campus, huge red flag. I feel like you need to be at least have someone have their eyeballs on you a few, like at least, even if it's a 1 week intensive thing, if they don't make you go to campus at all, red flag. Personally, I mean, I know a lot of them don't help you find your clinicals, but if they're very adamant that they don't, that's a red flag. And then I would just go on the forum. There's lots of forums out there. They are very, they're not the nicest places always, but there is a lot of information where people have kind of asked the same question and said, like, I went here, what do you think of it? And you can, even without like involving yourself and asking the question, just search and just see like if other people have been like, this was the worst school, I would never recommend it here. That's kind of a good way, but those are usually, oh, and look at your state's board of nursing, because if your state's board of nursing does not approve of the school, it doesn't, you won't be able to be licensed in that state because it won't recognize it. Yeah. So look and make sure that it's approved in the state you live in, or other states. Sometimes you might want to look in a few. Look at the picky ones: Illinois, New York, California. Those are very picky states. So I kind of use those as a gauge of like, is that, what are they, if they have a more rigorous weeding out thing. New York is the strictest I've heard of. So you could check theirs.
Yeah, no, you hit all the bases. I think if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. Yeah. I mean, come on, listen, I understand everybody has a life and everybody has bills to pay and things, but do you truly want to take the shortcut?
Yeah.
I mean, the job we do it ain't easy. Do you really want to take the shortcut?
Yeah. It's an excellent point.
I don't know about you, but the first several years out as an NP, you're scared out of your mind because you're afraid to make a mistake.
Yeah. These
are
people.
you are unprepared.
Yeah.
It takes years to get comfortable in your skin. I mean, I make the similar comparison is, how prepared were you when you graduated nursing school?
Yeah, not.
Okay, remember how scared you were then?
Yeah.
Magnify that by 10.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
I'm looking at more of these questions.
Someone's asking, MS Biome is asking, can NPs do private clinical therapy? If so, do they prescribe? Private client therapy, sorry. Try this one?
I guess it would depend on if you lived in an independent state or not. So if you lived in an independent state, I have heard of people doing, I think, are you asking about like, it's not retail health, it's like concierge medicine. Because I have heard of people doing concierge medicine as an NP in independent states. You could do it in a non-independent state. You would just have to pay a physician to be your collaborator. But you could, you can prescribe medicine, so.
Yeah. Hey, and once again, and that's the problem that just confabulates everything about becoming an NP, is that you not only have to understand the terminology and all of the different ways we name things, but every single state treats us differently.
Mm-hmm.
And not every single state not only treats the umbrella nurse practitioner differently, but then it treats every specialty differently.
Yeah.
And then when you whittle it down even more, then every facility treats you differently. So it just complicates things.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'm an acute care nurse practitioner, and I work in, you know, university hospital here. But if I go down the road 5 miles and work for the competitor, I'm not going to be able to do half the things that I can do at hospital A. And it's just because hospital B decided, their medical staff said that no, nurse practitioners can only do these things.
Yeah.
So it's, and you don't learn, I don't think they teach that enough
Mm-mm.
in nurse
No.
practitioner school. You learn it the hard way.
Yeah.
And some NPs, new grads, learn it after they've been hired. They're not even told it when they're interviewing. They just, you know, it's just, there's so much misinformation out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible.
It really is.
What else we got here?
Did you have one that people sent you?
Yeah, so let me look to my computer screen here. So this was more towards an acute care question. There's a nurse practitioner student who asked me, how do they decide which unit to do their preceptorship on it? And I had to look up the term preceptorship. I must be getting old, sadly. So as an acute care NP, how does a nurse practitioner student decide where to go do their rotations? Now, as an FNP student, how did that work for you?
We only got 40 hours of where we could have specialized in something. And you kind of had to, it wasn't a guarantee that you would get it. I knew I wanted family medicine, I didn't have enough women's health, so I just went back and did more women's health. So I just kind of picked an area that I was like, I probably should do more pap smears.
Did you have to set all that up?
I did not. My school set them up for me. I actually went back to I had to do 40 hours as part of my curriculum for women's health, and I went back to the same location.
Nice.
So.
Mine was the exact opposite.
Yeah.
I was one of those schools that I had to make all the arrangements.
Oh, that's rough.
But I knew it ahead of time, which
Yeah.
is better than many schools.
Mm-hmm.
They tell you in your interview that they do not make the arrangements. They can help make connections. Like they had a list of people that they knew were preceptors in particular hospital systems, but that you had to do all the legwork.
Yeah.
And I think I actually just recorded a video on my YouTube channel that talks about that. So first and foremost, you have to find a place that has an affiliate relationship with your school. So you can't go into you can't work as a student anywhere if there's no relationship between that facility, and the school. If the facility is willing to create a relationship, then kudos. But you also have to find a preceptor. And the preceptor has to be someone who not only understands your role, but actually is willing to teach you.
Yeah.
Which is really hard to do sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some NP programs will let you have a preceptor be the nurse practitioner. Some will let it be a physician. Some programs will let it be a PA. Some will not.
Yeah, mine did not.
Yeah. Ultimately, it comes down to, you know, geographic location, time, and effort.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing is if you get your choice, choose somewhere where you're going to learn the most.
Yeah.
When I was an NP student, I could have stayed close to home in smaller hospitals, and it would have been a breeze.
Yeah.
It would have been the easiest thing in the world. I would have saved money, but I would have learned nothing.
Yeah.
So I did the hard thing. I actually traveled 70 miles south one way, stayed in a hotel for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And I trained at the level 1 facilities where the sickest of the sick were.
And that's the best, yeah.
Because that's what I wanted. I wanted to be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I probably was a little idiotic in the way I planned it, but you know, I wanted to be prepared so that when I started that first job, that when the sick patients came through the doors, I was at least familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
I sure wasn't able to take care of them when I came out of the gate, but it didn't scare me as much.
Yeah.
So I guess that's
And
my
somewhere
answer.
that you might want to get a job too is something
Oh
that I
yeah.
always tell people, because a lot of your preceptorships turn into job offers if you show up and are awesome.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. So it's a tryout.
yeah, it really is.
We've hired almost 3/4 of my department were students that I trained. So
This was a good
couple more here.
question. I know many acute care NPs work outpatient, but can they do general primary care?
No. Well, the short answer is no, because primary care means womb to tomb.
Yeah.
Really love that term. I don't know. And so you can have an acute care nurse practitioner who has pediatric training,
Mm-hmm.
but I believe that is a separate program from adult training. There's no program that does both.
Yeah. Do you feel like someone who's in acute care could work in like a cardiology clinic?
Yes.
Yeah.
So as an acute care NP, I take care, I'm an adult acute
Yeah.
care NP. So if I left the hospital and the job that I am in now, I could work in a specialty office.
Okay,
I
that's
could
what
work
I
for
always
a cardiologist.
thought.
I could work for a nephrologist. I could work for a pulmonologist, but I can't work in primary care.
Yeah, and I think that's the interesting crossover area where a lot of confusion happens, and a lot of people have asked that too, is FNPs a lot of times work in those specialty outpatient clinics too, like cardiology, whatever, nephrology, because you kind of have a basis in it, and then almost always in those places you get usually you are trained specially to go through that. I didn't have any orientation, and most of the people I know who went into family medicine did not have anything. I just kind of showed up on day one and she was like, there you go. But I've never heard of anyone going into a specialty clinic where they were just thrown into it. So.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, once again, that just goes back to the original conversation. You know, there's no standardization.
Yeah.
So you literally could go to a cardiology office and you could have an acute care NP and an FNP both working and caring for patients because it's that middle gray area. So
I was even, I know the person who sent me this, I was giving him crap because I was like, you made me go back and I had to read the consensus model this morning because I was like, he asked a different question about the consensus model. I was like, what? Like, I haven't looked at that in years, but it was interesting.
I looked at that when I had to.
Exactly. I was like, I feel like I'm writing a paper. Like my husband was like, what are you reading? I was like, the consensus model. And it was interesting because it kind of left that as a gray area. It was like, they can both do it. You can't specialize in it by like degree, but you could both kind of do it. And I was like,
yeah.
Come
and
on.
Once again, I'm sorry, but the flexibility weakens the profession.
Yep.
And I will say that until I retire, that's why the medical community won't buy into us having complete independence.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep, I agree. What was his other question? It was good with that. Oh, do you think the consensus model will limit care in rural areas? He says with like FNPs, but kind of with both. And then when we were talking, he was kind of saying since it can pull FNPs out of the ER or out of the hospital in those rural communities where a lot of FNPs are working as hospitalists for low acuity patients, because technically by the consensus model, it would be, no, you can't do that.
Yeah. And I guess
I know it's a mess.
Yeah, that's a double-edged sword.
And then it's kind of like, well, that's why NPs were created way back when, was to serve rural populations who didn't have health care. And now we're kind of like,
ask for an inch and you get a mile.
Yep.
I don't know what the answer is. I think every community, every facility seems to bend the rules to their will.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's be honest here. for those that work in the hospital and have seen NPs work in an ICU, and I'm going to give my example because it's the only example that I can speak of, is that even though on paper the physician has signed off everything that I've done, how many of us out there actually think the physician sees and signs off on everything I've done? It's absolutely impossible.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe someday we're going to get the credit where the credit is actually due for the amount of work that we actually do, but we're not going to ever get it if we don't standardize.
Yep.
And it's just unfortunately, that's just the way it's going to be.
Yep.
So until that time happens, it's a free-for-all.
Yeah, I know.
So
we had been talking, and we had talked to, I was like, it would be awesome if they did a DNP program for FNPs or for whatever, like, I guess specifically for this FNPs, where in your DNP, your, like, if your specialty extra hours or whatever could be something like rural health that then qualified you to go and fill whatever that, you know, whole something like that. But then we got
to talk about, you know, degree versus certification.
Yep. Disaster.
Yeah, you know, because it's the alphabet soup.
We make it as hard as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you're not a DNP.
Yeah.
You're a nurse practitioner, but you're not a DNP.
Well, it didn't help at all.
I'm an MSN.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. How can you be a nurse practitioner? I am a nurse practitioner.
Yeah.
But you're not a DNP.
Yeah. And it didn't help at all that DNP has NP in it.
Yes.
Like.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and then they changed the my certification is, you know, ACNP. Well, the ACNP doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Now it's
yeah.
AGACNP. So let's make it even more complicated.
Yep. Yep.
It's horrible. So it could go on. Someone here, and it's just a F Vega is asking. Someone's asking about to review a particular school. They want to know about Chamberlain University. I have no insight on that. I don't know about you.
I don't have a ton. I think from what I've heard, just from things, like, it's certainly not the worst. But I know that's probably not very helpful. I honestly never looked into it. Like, I know kind of some of the ones that I would probably avoid. I'm not going to say on here, but message me.
Yeah.
I could be very wrong because I didn't go to the school, so I don't want to talk crap on them. And then you never know. It's all hearsay on my end. I mean,
to my understanding, it's an online program. That's as far as I'm going to go. I don't know enough about the program to speak good or bad about it. So.
Yeah, it's hard if you've never.
I would take Liz's advice and, you know, start looking online. Facebook is a wonderful place that has a lot of groups that talk about all these schools.
Yep.
And it's literally free.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And you don't have to talk to them because they're kind of mean, a lot of these people. Yes. They're just like psychos and they're internet warriors. But just, you can search within the groups, which is how I do. I'm just a creeper. I just look and I observe. Just don't interact.
Observer.
And also, never ever, Facebook groups, they're great, but then people post like actual questions like about patients and you're just like, what are you doing? Never do that. Never ever do that, guys.
Speaking of which, do you, maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I get questions from my fans about like family member medical problems or personal medical problems. Yep. And I'm like, dude.
Oh, friend. Yeah.
You do understand I am a licensed medical provider. Yeah. Do you understand how illegal that is?
Yeah.
And like, I can lose my license.
Yep.
No, really. Just tell me I'm telling you what I'm thinking. I'm not going to tell you anything. Yeah. So
I usually just tell them it'll probably fall off and it's cancer. And that ends the conversation super abruptly.
All right, you know, let me check with Dr. Google.
Yep. Dr. Google tells me you have cancer and that is about to fall off. You should definitely go see someone. Like now.
Grief. Scrolling through here. I've already professed this answer, but someone's asking both of us. Where did it go? First nurse wants to know, do either of us want to go back and teach?
You go. Aren't you doing
No,
that?
no. All my viewers know my answer, so your turn.
I would love to teach, but I'm having a hard time with nursing education at the moment. I don't have a filter. I think I would get fired. I'm just, yeah. I struggle with our nursing education system at the moment, and I think eventually I'll mature more and I'll get over it. But right now I'm just frustrated and don't want to go back. And I think I would get fired. Like, my opinion would not, if I ever presented a thesis, they would just be like, no, you're crazy. Or like, no, because it would be like my DNP project would probably be like, why the way we're doing the DNP is stupid. And then they would be like, I'm not going to let you defend that. But
so I am going back. And
I know you are.
My DNP.
You are a brave
but
soul.
It's low residue. It's and I hate to. We've just joked about it, but it is quite easy for me to go back and get my DNP.
Mm-hmm.
I've been practicing for 7 years, so I literally just need the degree.
Yeah.
I don't need the experience. I don't need you to teach me how to utilize evidence.
Yeah.
I got it. I'm good.
Yeah.
So I found a program that was local, and it's low residue. One
That's
class
awesome.
for
I need that. I could do that.
one class every semester until the fall of 21, and I'm done.
That's doable. A lot of the ones,
And,
a lot of the ones that I was looking at were just like
horrible.
so much more research, so much more, and I was like, let's use these hours in a more productive way.
Yeah, and this particular program, I don't have to actually do another capstone, so it's
that's so nice.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I still have to do a senior project, but
Yeah.
I don't have to create new evidence. I don't
Yeah.
have to go and create a new project. We've been there, done that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, so low residue. So if anybody's interested, message me.
Yeah.
If you're interested in an MSN to a DNP bridge, it's completely online, and it's low residue.
I might have to message you.
Yeah.
Actually, I can't do that for another couple of years. I promised Joe.
Well, the other thing is that one class a semester means you're paying most of it, if not all of it, out of pocket.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get loans, or not unless you take out a personal loan of some sort, but you're paying it out of pocket. So you better have the finances to do that as well. Yeah. So
you don't do that with daycare. That's just insanity.
You have a bit of a busier household than I do.
All right, should we do two more and then call it a night?
Yep. Read my mind. I'm like, what time is it? Holy cow.
Well, I got to go put my retainers in and go to bed.
So I've answered a lot of questions, so I'm going to let you answer you pick the last two questions.
All righty. I saw one in here. Oh man, where did it go? It was about, what do acute care nurse practitioners do in the ICU?
Anything a doctor does. And that's the short answer.
Intubation.
If you can, I can do it all.
Yeah.
That's the kind of the reason why I did it, is because the very first time I saw an NP in an ICU, she was doing a bronch. She was doing a therapeutic bronch at the bedside. And when she was done, she introduced herself and shook my hand and said, "Hi, my name's Tina. I'm the nurse practitioner." I went, "What?
Okay.
Do that?" So I'm now that person. I can do all of those cool procedures that you see that are done in the ICU. Everything from an intubation all the way to central lines, arterial lines, chest tubes, paracentesis, thoracentesis. I could do it all. So I'm the guy that runs the codes. I'm the guy that does it all. So
that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. I kind of love my job.
You do way cooler procedures than I do, but I don't like procedures.
Yeah, if you don't like procedures, you probably shouldn't be in the ICU.
Yeah, no. That was one thing I was like, no, thank you. All right, last one. I feel like this is a popular topic at the moment. Can you talk about imposter syndrome a bit and ways you've talked yourself out of it?
You first.
I think that's something I'm still definitely working on, especially being so new. And then also being like online, because I think I come off a lot more confident than I am. Like in my head, a lot of the times I'm still like, oh my gosh, like I am someone's primary care provider. Like that's a big deal. And I don't feel like I should be allowed to do that. And so I think just a lot of it is like reminding yourself, like, you know, but you are doing a good job. Like I'm doing everything that I possibly can to make sure everything is evidence-based. I double and triple check myself. Like I'm doing it. I think it's just something, I don't know. I have not figured that out yet, but I think just knowing in the back of my mind that like I am doing the best I possibly can every single time, and things are going and we're working on it. But I think, yeah, especially I think having this like social media thing, like, yeah, I do not, when people ask me questions like, why are you asking me that? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just, it's different, but I don't know. I'm working on that because that's hard.
The short answer is anyone that says that they've never suffered, that they don't or ever suffered from imposter syndrome is flat out lying.
Yeah.
We all experience it at varying levels. It never goes away. I'm sorry. Sorry, peeps.
Yeah. I think
the nursing world, it will never go away. You handle it better.
I think like remembering back to when I was a nurse, I remember feeling that. And then by the end, like every now and then I still had that like, whoa, like I'm doing
Still
this.
have it.
But like whatever, 6 years into it, I was much more like confident. And
I'm 7 years into, I am the senior, is that a word? Seniorist?
yeah, yeah.
I am the seniorist staff there is in the critical care department. Every single person
That's awesome.
except for my boss, I taught.
That's so cool.
And I still have imposter syndrome to this day. In fact, just yesterday at work, I had a thought of, you know, can I do this? Is this something that I'm able to do? There was a really cool book, and I wish I could remember the name of the book, but the author is Amy Cuddy. And hopefully that maybe we'll write this down somewhere. I read the book. Wish I could find it.
I'll link it down.
It's not in my book. It's not in my bookcase right now. But anyway, it's I forget the name of the book, but it's written by Amy Cuddy, and it literally is about imposter syndrome. And I used to follow the mantra, "Fake it till you make it," but she made me start thinking, "Fake it till you become it."
That's kind of cool. Yeah.
and if anyone is interested in working through imposter syndrome in a healthy way, you really should read her book. Nurse Colleen Bean, great name by the way. You're correct. She was at the AACN conference the year that I didn't get to go. Stunk. And it's a wonderful book that I've actually reread twice.
Oh,
and
perfect.
it talks about how you constantly tell yourself that I'm just going to keep faking it until I make it or until I become it. And then after time goes by, you're already doing it.
Yeah.
And you don't even realize it. So Nurse Colleen says that it was called Presence. I'm going to take your word for it because yes, the power pose. Thank you. You stole my thunder. You should look up the video. She did a TED Talk on it. It's what made her infamous. She wrote the book, and then she went and did a TED Talk, and it talked about the power pose. And
I'll see if I can find it. And then on the YouTube version, I'll just link it.
I'm not standing up and doing the power pose. Sorry, I'm not doing it. Besides, you see me in my pajamas. I'm not doing it. And it talked about if you spend, and I think it's 30 seconds to a minute, standing in a power pose. And the best description I can give you is, has anyone ever seen the old Wonder Woman movie TV shows when she puts her hands on her waist and sticks her chest out? That's the power pose. And it literally instills confidence in you subconsciously. Like if you're going to go for an interview, go hide out in the bathroom a couple minutes before the interview and do the power pose staring at the mirror.
That's awesome.
Research has proven over and over again through brainwave MRIs and all that other cool crap that it actually improves performance, which is mind-boggling.
I know. All right, guys. So I didn't know that Instagram Lives could only be an hour long. I mean, we probably shouldn't have been talking that long, but it's fine. We got ourselves carried away. So oops. Thanks so much for coming to our live tonight. If you guys are not familiar with Sean, I will leave his Instagram handle here and his YouTube channel down below. And if you are new to me, I'm Liz, like we talked about. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I'll leave my Instagram handle here. Thanks so much for coming tonight and for all your questions. Sorry this got a little bit long, but you know, it's just something to do your dishes too and just hopefully get a little bit of maybe some knowledge and a giggle out of. Thanks for coming tonight, guys. I'm gonna keep doing these Instagram lives and uploading them on here. I think just so that if you miss it on Instagram, you don't have to worry about catching it in the next 24 hours. And like I said, you can do your dishes to it. So at least that's how I watch all my YouTube videos and assume everyone else does. Hope you guys got a kick out of this. I will see you guys next time. Bye.